Call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us here this evening and all those who are watching us at home on TV. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to introduce Reverend Daniel Cook, pastor of the Sanctuary of Wilmington, for the invocation, and ask that everyone remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Let's pray. Lord, before we ask you for anything, we thank you for everything. We thank you for our city. Lord, we thank you for all those that are represented here tonight. God, we thank you for the council members. God, you've been good to us, and we say thank you. Now, Lord, we ask your blessing, Lord, to remain upon our city, upon all those represented. God, we ask you, Lord, that your wisdom rests on this place. God, we ask you, Lord, that your peace rests on our city. God, keep us safe, protect us, watch after us. Lord, and we just give you all the praise, honor, and glory for all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's a very special evening. We have Employee Recognition Award to all the recipients and all the folks that work for this great city. And the reason that it is one of the most popular cities in America is because of the dedicated employees and the work that goes into taking care of the city every single day. So at this time, I am going to make the presentation of the recognition awards, and I will move to the front. Going to help me here? Okay. Come on. At this time, I'd like to recognize our quarterly award winners for the city's Employees Recognition Program. We are very fortunate to have a large group of dedicated and talented individuals striving to ensure that our residents receive the highest quality services possible from their local government. The individuals being recognized today have demonstrated a commitment to the organizational core values. The first individual being recognized is Morel Fox from our Community Service Department. Morel is being recognized under the Service Award category. Early this year, Morel was awarded the North Carolina Athletic Director's Outstanding Young Professional Award, and Morel's dedication and enthusiasm for the profession is unmatched, and he works hard to incorporate unified and adaptive sports into the City of Wilmington's standard athletics program. He has facilitated a valuable working relationship with UNCW, adaptive sports faculty, which has been a vital part of expanding the city's programming. Morel is also committed to improving and expanding the city's Employee Athletic League, and this program aims to support employee morale, inclusion, and wellness. And Morel exhibits a relentless desire to learn and improve in all areas of the profession and has helped foster an expanding athletics team at the City of Wilmington. This time, Morel will come forward. Morel, welcome.
What's up, bud? Good to see you again.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's take a picture. Now you just got to get the city council involved in some team sports too.
Oh yeah, hey, employee league, kickball's coming up.
There you
Kickball's
go.
coming up.
I like that. Thank you, Morel. Thank you. This next individual being recognized are Jen Cleft from our Information Technology Department, Rosanna Diaz from our Human Resources Department, and Marcy Martin from our Finance Department. These three individuals are being recognized under the Teamwork Award category. Jen, Rosanna, and Marcy stepped up to the plate and worked together to ensure our employees were paid accurately and on time during the Kronos timekeeping outage this past December. This involved working over the Christmas holiday and weekends to validate over 1,000 employee time cards, importing the data into the financial system, and then sending the payroll file to the bank on time. Jen was instrumental in establishing a system for employees to record their time electronically. Rosanna built a Power Query in Excel to assist with validating the data to locate and resolve any discrepancies. And Marcy then went through every single time card to ensure the hours were coded appropriately. Within 2 weeks of the system going down, Jen, Rosanna, and Marcy were able to implement a new process for tracking time and ensuring all 1,000 employees were paid on time around the Christmas holiday. Outstanding work. If all three please come up. How you doing? She isn't? Okay, so all right, get right over here. Let's see. Come on up here. Did I have the right ones in?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But let's just take a picture here. I know Rosanna couldn't be here tonight, but congratulations. A lot of hard work went into this. My goodness, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very much, guys. The next individual being recognized is Courtney Salgado. Pronounce it properly. From our city attorney's office, Courtney is being recognized under the Respect Award category. In Courtney's position, she regularly interacts with the public as she conducts real estate closings to aid our engineering teams as they complete improvements around the city. Recently, a resident needed to close on a property within a capital improvement project for health-related reasons, but the project was not yet finalized. Courtney recognized the value of this resident and the importance of his request and worked tirelessly drafting all necessary documents to complete the closing within his preferred time frame. She also stayed in regular contact with the 99-year-old property owner to ensure they had a full understanding of the process as well as the resources they needed to complete the closing successfully. When Courtney found out she was placing documents in the mail around the resident's birthday, she wrote them a birthday card thanking them for their willingness to grant an easement to the city and sending them well wishes. In response, the family wrote Courtney a letter with photos and sincere thanks for the kindness, respect, courtesy, and care Courtney showed at every step of the process. Courtney, outstanding work. Come forward, please. It's all about customer service, and that's outstanding customer service. Oh, and that's her husband? Okay, is this your husband? Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. The last individual being recognized are Holly Maroon and Elizabeth Hollenbach from our finance department. They are both being recognized under the accountability and professionalism category. The city's housing loans are still being accounted for in the old financial system. For the past 2 years, Elizabeth and Holly have been verifying and re-verifying loan data for the conversion to the new financial system. The housing loans have several points of data, and the database must match the real-world loan terms on the deed of trust, the promissory note, and any loan modifications approved by the Loan Review Committee. Holly and Elizabeth define accountability and professionalism because they hold a strong commitment to getting the conversion right the first time. They have taken the initiative to make sure all key responsibilities are brought forward now during the testing phase, and their commitment makes all the difference in the world. So if they'll please come forward. Thank you so much for this outstanding work, Elizabeth and Holly.
Elizabeth is at the
I know.
polls working.
That's a lot of work to get a real estate closing done. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Next presentation, excuse me. Our next presentation this evening is on our boards and commissions. At this time, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Charlie Reinbart. Mr. Reinbart?
Good afternoon, everybody. I, along with Councilmember Luke Waddell and Councilmember Neil Anderson, make up the Appointments Committee. We meet periodically, usually about once a month, and when we make our appeal to the folks out there watching or here in the council chambers, it's usually at the end of the meeting, and sometimes that can be 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and we feel like perhaps we're not getting the kind of audience we'd like to have. So I asked if we could have a few minutes here at the beginning of the meeting. They graciously let us do that. I have in my hand here a list of all of the boards and commissions that the city has. We have 30 boards and commissions. We have something for everybody, from Energy Committee to Bicycle Committee to Planning Commission, Tree Commission. It's a wide range, and we would really appreciate, and I think you would gain a lot of insight as to how the city functions if you would volunteer. You can go online on our city's website to fill out the application. It's very painless. And then Ms. Penny Sidbury, our city clerk, gets that, and she puts that in our books, and we don't vet them, but we look at the applications very carefully and make sure they achieve the criteria, or they have meet the criteria for city residency on some it's not. So please consider doing that. I think you will get a lot out of it. And at this moment, I'd like for Councilmember Luke Waddell to take it a step further. Luke?
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed serving on the Appointments Committee with Councilmember Rivenbark and Councilmember Anderson. Just a couple of quick follow-ups. These boards and committees are really important to the improvement of our community and to the type of community that you want to see, and using your various strengths and interests to you. There's certainly at least one board or commission on there which I'm sure anyone could serve on that would be interesting to them. Quick anecdote, I was appointed to the County Board of Adjustment way before I was elected to city office. And it's a zoning board of adjustment. That was something I pursued because it was of significant interest to me. And I felt I could benefit the board and ultimately my community by, giving a little bit of my time. So I'd strongly recommend anyone with any interest to look at these boards and committees. And if anybody has any specific questions about a board, then just send an email to council, and I assure you we'll get you directed to the right people who can answer what that board really entails. For the staff, I think there's a couple things we could do to make it just a little more simple and streamlined. A question I've gotten from quite a few citizens that have come to me and said, hey, I'm interested in a couple of these, but what's the time commitment for these specific committees? So I'd like to maybe see that we could put like an estimated monthly time commitment for each board and committee on the website. I think that would be helpful. And then just a easy link or something to show the board committee webpage to show what the existing vacancies are so that folks can know when something's coming up to apply. So thanks, Councilman Rivenbark, and we look forward to seeing some more folks come in and fill some of these vacancies.
Thank you, Luke. Neil?
Well, it just comes to mind for me that I have people come up to me all the time and want to give me input and want to provide advice. And I ask those people, golly, you'd be great to serve, run for office. I'm not in a smart way, but you'd be great for it. And they're like, I don't have the time, or I don't have that kind of time. Well, this is a great way to get involved, have a constant voice, whether that's monthly or quarterly. Some of these commissions just meet as needed. So it really varies, but you can, give back, serve your fellow citizens, help improve the city and make a direct contribution. So I just invite you to, anyone that's even given it any thought, to hop on the website, peruse them, and try to find a spot that works for them. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. And one final thing, we would never ask you all to do anything that we don't do, because if you think that getting elected, this is all we do, you're wrong. Because each one of us up here on this dais, we serve on various committees and boards that come as part of being on city council. So please consider it. And if you're listening tonight and you know of somebody that may not be listening tonight, tell them about it. And they could call me. I'm real easy to get up with, as is everybody, and I could answer any questions or at least point you in the right direction. So thank you for listening to us, and hope you'll take it to heart. Thank you, Mayor.
Our next item of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 4. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of this council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information. There are no public speakers that are scheduled to speak this evening, so we'll go on to our next item of business, which is our public hearings. And I will announce that PH1 was continued from our November 16, 2021 meeting, and the ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 1009 Chestnut Street as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Tony Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Chief Code Enforcement Officer Brian Renner will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. This is what I like to call a good one. So this, if you remember this property, this has been before you actually back in May of 2021. And we were able to work with the property owner, work with the county, and ultimately the state to get this essentially rebuilt. So this is what this house looked like back in April of last year. This was in January. They removed everything but that front facade, and that's what the house looks like now. So we're looking at a denial on this one as our recommendation because this house has essentially been removed and completely rebuilt. And I'm here for any questions.
It's good news, man. Thank you very much. That's great news. It's the way it should be done. Yes, we have a question from Mr. Spears, Councilmember Spears.
Brian, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. You know, this is what my second year on council, and I've seen quite a few of these, but you know, it's really good that one has been saved. We can see the actual product of, you know, someone going out and inquiring for help and getting the help, and ultimately they'll go back in this home, right?
Yeah, I believe he's back in there now.
Right.
I received this photo from the state budget office last week, and they said he was moving in over the weekend.
Yeah, this is good, and especially we talk so much about affordable housing and the housing crunch in general. And so where one of these homes, dilapidated homes, or, you know, really in really bad condition homes can be saved, and a family has saved their property and allowed the opportunity to be prosperous in the community is a good look for the city and the state and all partnerships that were involved. So I just want to say this looks really good. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion to deny by Councilman Barnett, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH2, which is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 3227 Chalmers Drive as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Joy just brought to my attention that you did not specify with your motion that would be a denial of the ordinance. Yes, he did, according to Ms.
It was specified as denial. Okay, we're good.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pardon the interruption.
That's
Mr.
okay.
Renner will overview this item for
All right,
us.
no problem.
Hello again. This one's a little different. Let me just preface this with that we're working with the property owner to come to a resolution. And I'll have some more information on that as we kind of go through this. So the property we're looking at here is 3227 Chalmers Drive. This is an owner-occupied single-family residence. The owners are Christopher and Brenda Keene, husband-wife. We have done a lot of efforts to provide assistance, referrals to various programs, agencies, you name it, we've probably referred it to them. And this is also one that's kind of in the initial phases of our owner-occupied housing rehab program with our community development team. So this is what the outside of the house looks like. You can already see the roof is rather bowed in that. So we started this case back in September of 2020. We were able to get this to Housing Code hearing in June of 2021. And the owner did attend that hearing, and our order to repair expired in December of 2021. So from that hearing, we see that the house is dilapidated. Tax value in 2021 tax value is right there. It's $112,800. Estimated cost of rehab was $57,841. That puts us at 51%, which makes this building dilapidated by our Housing Code standards. Just for some background, we have there are no city and county taxes owed. Our public nuisance liens on this property are $4,740. And all the Housing Code violations are outlined in that finding of fact as well. So we did an interior inspection of this house back on March 28th, and that's what these photos are from. From that inspection, we found that there was no significant change in the condition of the property. We actually got farther into the property than we had previously on this inspection. We did talk to the owner during this inspection. He said he was working to clear out some of the contents of the house. So as we go through, we'll see a little bit more. So this is the back side of the house. And this is going in through the front door. That's the main entry room. We see a lot of items inside, some significant cracking through the walls. The floor is actually about at a 45-degree angle inside the building. A lot of stuff inside. The roof of that other area is completely collapsed in. Going down the hallway, bathroom area. That's in that, I'd call it a dining room area when you're inside the door and you can see back through. That ceiling structure is completely collapsed in there. And that goes into this back kind of sunroom area. So with this one, as I said, we've been able to connect with the owners, get them into the city's housing rehabilitation program, but the property's still occupied and it's definitely unfit for human habitation. So we're working directly with our community development team and the owners, kind of going through the next steps. First step being empty the house out so we can start down the bid process for construction and go to the loan board and all of that. But we have engaged with the owners. We've talked to them about relocating, and we're continuing to explore options on a relocation, but we haven't nailed something down yet, and they haven't either. I called them today, and they didn't return my call, but when I spoke with them, I believe it was last week, they said that they currently didn't have any place to go, but I strongly encourage them to figure that out, and we've been working with them as well on those. We've spoken with New Andover County Social Services. They've made a visit to the property, and they've provided resource referrals as well. And as I said, we've been trying to connect them with all the community resources out there as best as we can. So as this dwelling is currently occupied, and you saw the conditions of the property, we're looking at a 15-day vacate and close before we consider doing summary ejectment proceedings on this. And then we're putting a 45-day until we take further actions, which could be everything from maybe helping them clean out the house to demolishing the house. We just have to figure out what that looks like as we go through that 45-day period. But due to the continued unsanitary and unsafe conditions, we're looking for approval of this ordinance.
Very good. Mr. Rivenbark?
Mr. Renner, in your talks from day one up until the present, is there like a underlying reason? I mean, I know it doesn't matter the age of the people, but did they lose their job, or did they, I guess my question is, just to say it, is how'd they get like this?
We find that mental health and code enforcement tend to go hand in hand. They had some family tragedies that occurred around the time of Florence, and then Florence did a number on the house. So that's kind of been the driving factor and the reason it is the way it is today.
Okay. Is there a room in that house where they can actually have a bed to sleep in? Or, all we saw was clutter all the way to the ceiling.
There is a bedroom down at the end of that hall that I was not able to access. They would not let me into it when I did my inspection. It's my understanding it's in the same condition, though.
Okay. So if we approve this tonight, how long will, and they said they didn't have anywhere to go. What do we do in a case like that? It's been, I know we've been here before, but I refreshed my memory. What do we do, Mr. Joy or Brian One, what do we do, like if you said 15 days to vacation? How many?
It would be a summary, it'd be a summary
Vacation, that's what
ejectment
it is.
proceeding, so we would go through the court system
Yeah.
to do that. In terms of where the people would go, we've already engaged with various shelters in the area as a last resort type of thing for them. And we're working to try to get them into other accommodations, but the current accommodations are unacceptable.
And all the taxes, are up to date? They're not in arrearage on any of that?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sure I have other questions, and I just can't think what they are. It's just mind-boggling. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Renner, does the house have electricity and water service?
It does have electricity and water service. I was not able to identify a functional bathroom while I was in there, but as I said, the extent of the photos are about as far as I got into the house. So they do have service, I'm just not sure how usable it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
I think this is follow-up to both of y'all's questions, but it looks to me like we're taking somebody who's not homeless and making them homeless. They're paid up on their taxes, their water and sewer is on, they're living in a house that's different than probably how any of us would choose to live in a home. I realize that we've deemed it unsafe, looks like from the roof issues, but other than that, we look at giving somebody a brand new home on the last one, and this one taking, I assume, a couple that are living in this house that they own, and tell them they got to be out in 15 days and tear it down. It seems a little. We have a homeless issue already. We're exacerbating that issue. There's folks that decide that this is their home, they want to live in it. So, you see these a lot more than we do, so some more explanation on that would be interesting.
Right, and I can definitely understand and appreciate where you're coming from. That's never our goal, is never to kick anybody out of their home, and as I had prefaced this with, we are working with them and going through the programs that are available, especially the community development rehabilitation program that we have, to provide them with assistance to repair this home. Again, that's got to go through the process. We tried to get them into the process very early on, and they were not willing to go through with the process until we got to this point where we are right now. So now we're kind of encouraging them to clean out the house so we can move forward with assessments, and then after the assessments, loan review board, bids, and all of that. But it's a long process, and it's a complicated process. And we are working with them to find other accommodations. But I think it's fair to say that this building is unfit for human habitation, and we need to do our best to remedy that in the safest way possible for them and for the other residents of the city.
Mr. Ravenborough?
One question I wanted to ask. What program via the city do they qualify for?
They are currently going through the owner-occupied rehabilitation program. We have an arm of that that's specifically for code enforcement cases that we're working with them through.
Is the time element going to work into our time element, or how long it takes to maneuver through that?
I've been coordinating with that program very closely through this. It is aligned to not only to the fiscal year of our new budget when I can put money into this program a little bit better, say, help them clean out the house, for example, underneath this repair aspect of the ordinance, to help facilitate then contractor assessments and bids. So it's a complicated process, and we're trying to piece it together. But where we're at is the building's unfit, and we're working with them to relocate. And we need to do what we can to help them repair it if they're willing to do that. But it's where we're at, and unfortunately, sometimes these things aren't easy.
And there's also the neighborhood aspect of it, the people that, the surrounding property owners.
Exactly. I've received, this actually originated from a neighbor complaint, and then we've received additional complaints as we've gone through this process on this.
Thank you, Brian.
Mr. Spears?
Yeah, I just went back through the pictures. I was gonna ask if you were able to identify with them if they were in some type of financial strait, because I say that to say, some homes need some repair, and you sit there as a homeowner and think, you need a certain amount of money to start doing things. And then once you start doing things with, a little bit of money here and there and a few trips to Harbor Freight, and, you start making progress. But, going through those pictures, the start is just throwing some things away and cutting the shrubs and things of that nature, which would help with the presentation of the home. But it's kind of hard to assess the real need. And how many rooms was that were all cluttered with stuff?
You had the front entryway, the dining room, and the hallway, and then the bathroom. That was really all I could get to from that inspection.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a clean out situation, and that's also what we're hoping we can use this portion of the ordinance for, but it's going to boil down to cooperation with the property owner, and if they're willing to part with things and work through this. But as I said, it's something we're working with.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Barnett?
Thank you for the report. You mentioned that you think part of the issue is mental illness. Are there any relatives or family members that are connected with this couple? Have we reached anybody like that?
It's my understanding they have a daughter, but they have shown no willingness to stay with that daughter or connect with that daughter. So I don't know too much of the family ties in that way, and I can't necessarily speak to it. But we've made significant attempts to try to get them to relocate voluntarily, and they have no interest in doing so.
And is it part of the process to maybe reach out to the daughter, or you don't know who she is or where she is or anything like that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where we don't really have that much information on that, and they're not really, as I said, interested in us getting involved in their family in that way. And we're trying to get them through our process to work with them, so it's a fine line that we tread sometimes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
I'm sure this will be approved. I'm not sure I'm going to vote to do it just because of all the reasons I said before, but just out of curiosity, if we were to deny the approval of the ordinance, what happens then?
That would be an excellent question for John, but I assume we would come back with a different approach. Again, council can always modify this ordinance to whatever they see fit.
If it's denied, there's still an ongoing violation out there, so what staff would do is we would back up, try to work with the folks, do our best to find a different approach, something that with the guidance of council might be something council would be more supportive of. The real pressure or driver there would be it's going to leave these conditions out there longer, but it might come with a better solution. The bottom line is, in these cases, normally it's not until council takes action that staff actually can get some cooperation from the folks who are in charge of the property. And that, there's not a guarantee there. Sometimes council takes action and we demolish the homes.
And what are the fines? And once they're in violation, would those fines continue to mount as if they didn't get it back into compliance, right?
So the fines could be $100 per day since the expiration of the order, which was December 2021. Have we assessed any of those fines against the property owner? We have not.
Okay.
Because obviously this is an issue. Financial leverage is not the problem. There's other problems here at play that we're trying to work through. So if that explains the citation situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Brian, my question, because you made a comment earlier about, are these folks aware of how serious the situation is?
They are. As I had mentioned, Mr. Keene has been working to relocate some of the items out of the house and clean the house out. Part of the intent of this ordinance is, again, repair, and it would be our goal to try to facilitate that in some way using this authority in conjunction with our owner-occupied rehabilitation program.
Okay. Ms. Haynes?
I know these are never easy, and it's a tough job, and I appreciate your going through this, and I know that you are very sensitive to people's situation and trying to sort of shepherd them through a bad process, and you've been doing great. You know, I just say this, we have so many good churches and so many good nonprofit organizations, and many of which the city supports, that anybody that's watching or listening, step up, you know, help these people. They need just some compassion from the community to reach out and help these people move on to the next step, because we can't allow people to live in something that is unsafe. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope somebody in the community will hear this and step up and help them.
Ms. Anderson?
Well, I would just say I'm not a fan of government overreach like Mr. Waddell has espoused already, but in this case, you know, you got a fire, they're not getting out. They're burning up in there. I mean, there's no way. Another couple deluges, another, you know, tropical storm, that roof's going to be on top of them and kill them. So in my mind, I don't know, we just can't, now that we're aware of it, you just can't let them live that way if you care about them. And then the neighbors, I can't imagine mice and the rats, the raccoons. I mean, sometimes you bring us, you know, evidence of that, but I can just look. There's critters in that house, and that's not fair to the neighbors. So I just don't. I mean, I think it's one where we have to, you know, we got to act. So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. This time, I'm going to recognize the property owners here. Seeing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anybody wishes to speak on this particular item to come forward and give their name for the record. Seeing none, are the city clerk, have you received any additional comments from anybody? Okay. I will now close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Spears, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-1. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Brings us to our next item of business, which is all public hearings, all tied to the budget, and I will read all of the items, and then we will have one public hearing for all of the items that I have read into the record. Item PH3A is an ordinance making appropriation to the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. Item PH3B is an ordinance making appropriations to the grant projects, financial plans, enterprise funds, debit service fund, and special tax district for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. Item PH3C is an ordinance making appropriations to the capital projects funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. Item PH4 is an ordinance amending various chapters of the City of Wilmington fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. This time I'd like to recognize our City Manager, Mr. Tony Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our Budget Director, Laura Mortel, will overview these items for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I have a brief presentation before you open the public hearing for comment. I just wanted to provide the public and yourselves just a reminder of how we developed the budget, and we worked in collaboration with council to develop a lot of these strategies, and I won't read them all, but they include property tax increase tied to the employee retention and attraction. We have acceleration of the transportation bond projects to be completed in 3 years. We have the continuation of the inclusionary city government, and then we have continuation of affordable housing efforts. And the total budget, as you can see, system-wide is just over $251 million. Just a few that you can see, the general fund makes up the most of that, over 52% at just over $130 million. Stormwater is just over $14 million at 6% of the budget, and recycling and waste is 4% at $11 million. We have a few of the highlights that I wanted to provide you from the city manager's recommended budget include the compensation study that we implemented in April. It was about $7.3 million. We also have items related to the RISE initiative where we have a disparities study, and we have the DEI specialist going from part-time to full-time to work on our first DEI strategic plan for the city. We have the acceleration of the transportation projects where we infuse the budget with 1 paralegal, 2 project managers, as well as the phase 2 of CIP ACE, the software. In the service improvements, that's very heavily on public safety. We have 15 firefighters for River Lights. We have 5 downtime police officers. We have 2 gang investigators, and we have 1 construction inspector to make sure that our assets that we're putting on the ground are being done correctly and safely. For affordable housing, we have dedicated 1 cent on the tax rate. That I want to be clear that we did not increase the amount that we provided to affordable housing by 1 cent. We just made it whole at 1 cent at just about $2.1 million, and that took about $500,000 more than what we had provided last year. And then we also recommend providing $1.5 million of the unrestricted fund balance and putting it into restricted fund balance for council to use at gap financing or any other affordable housing that may occur during the year. And then agencies, we have $1.25 million that is split between service providers. We have civic partners, and then also our public service agencies that we had the competitive processes this year that commenced. We have 2 property tax rate adjustments. To fund the compensation study, we recommend a 1.24 cent increase from 38.08 cents to 39.5 cents. That represents almost 3 1/4 or 3 7/3. I'm saying that right. 3.73% increase, and it equals about $3 million, sorry. And then for the first time, we are requesting a tax rate adjustment for the municipal service district, and this is related to our public safety officers downtown. We're asking that they fund 2 of them. It's a 1 cent increase. It goes from 5.47 cents to 6.47 cents. It does represent an 18% increase, and it generates $81,000. We do have fee schedule changes. The majority of these that I'll go over are trying to make our enterprise funds solvent. However, I wanted to point out one of the general fund ones that was not in the recommended budget, but we are going to be removing the short-term lodging fee because we are no longer allowing that permit or not going to ask for that permit. Stormwater is increasing their equivalent residential unit, which is the ERU, by 1% following their rate model. Parking has several adjustments, and they are requesting 3 years of incremental increases. This is approved, or I don't want to say approved, the advisory board does go along with these changes. And one of them is to remove the 90-minute free parking at the 2nd Street and Market Street deck. And another is to increase on-street parking by meters by 50 cents an hour. Gulf is asking for a $2 increase for green fee adjustments. Their advisory board does support it. This also follows along with a rate model study that they did last year. And then recycling and trash is asking for 5% fee increase. You can see that the 95-gallon trash cart is going from 27 and 35 cents to 28 and 72 cents per month. 35-gallon, $22.22 to $23.34 per month. And then the benchmarks that are following this public hearing, May 27th, we have an opportunity for council to ask questions and to learn more about the budget, and we have adoption in June. And that is the end of the presentation.
Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir, Mr. Spears?
I do have a comment, and it's more so related to the on-street parking and the removal of the free 90-minute parking and how we came to that conclusion. And some of these things, you know, we talked about the budget work session and the budget work sessions that we have and how we come to these conclusions. And ultimately, they come before us. But me, honestly speaking, I don't think we had an in-depth conversation about some of these things. Like, we kind of touched and went. And now here it is before us, and we're making this decision. And I just think, again, this is totally me. I think that we need to have more discussion before we implement these changes. Charlie just talked about, you know, the responsibilities of being on a board and the responsibilities that we have as city council people. But things like this make the job hard because when we're in these budget work sessions, it's go, 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 like we're trying to get to the finish line of a race. And then we come and we make these decisions for the citizens of our city. And I mean, honestly speaking, we don't get together on a regular basis and really talk about these things. This is our moment outside of the budget work session and an occasional call to someone else that's on the board to have a real discussion about what we're going to do when we're here on Tuesday nights. I just feel like it's kind of rushed to me, honestly. It's just rushed to me, and I would like if we put a little more discussion and thought into it. That's just, I just wanted to say that.
Kevin, to your point, the city manager has a responsibility under state statute to present a budget based on what the staff and they feel is the priorities of council. On the 27th, I'm sure we'll have a rigorous debate and discussion about a number of things, and I'm sure we have a public hearing that's about to take place that I'm sure we'll hear from the citizens, and I'm sure that we've also heard commentary from citizens in different groups and advocacy groups and other things. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about each and every one of the things that we feel passionate about, But tonight is the budget presentation. The community now has an opportunity to share with us their thoughts and opinions, and I'm sure we'll get additional thoughts and opinions on that. And we'll then obviously, hopefully come to some conclusion or some coalesce around some decision and adopt the budget on the 7th, which has an opportunity to change in many different ways, depending on how council feels collectively. But I think that we'll have some serious discussions moving forward. This was a very challenging budget. Our first priority was to our employees, to our first responders, and I think we've been able to accomplish that, but there's a lot of other things that obviously that we'll be looking at and talking about, and it's always a tough thing to be able to balance, but we'll have enough time on the 27th if it takes us all day, and I know we'll start early in the morning and could go very late in the evening. Well, I don't think that'll be the last opportunity for us to really debate it and discuss it, but I don't think it'll be something that we should rush, that we should have an opportunity to share your opinions, and everybody, I'm sure, has different thoughts about different things that we want to change or maybe alter, so that'll give us an opportunity to do that. Okay? Mr. Waddell?
My points in follow-up to that, and really just clarification to the public that this is a public hearing to give them the information of where the budget stands right now, and that it is, that we still do have what I would assume will be a lengthy budget work session on May the 27th, that then will get us to June the 7th to actually vote on and make action on the budget. So I know it can be a little confusing looking to see the public hearing. You're seeing the budget and you think, well, we're going to be just making action on it right now. And but I know this is the time now through May 27th to gather for all of us to gather information. I know staff's probably sick of getting emails from me asking questions just because I want to be as informed as possible as we get to this budget work session. But I think it is important for the public to know that no action's being taken today on that budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will say, just want to respond about parking, and this ties in, as Kevin said, about what Charlie was talking about advisory committees and commissions, and we do have DPAC, the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee, and I believe Chance, our staff person that's in charge of all that, is here, and he reported at one of the previous budget things that there was a great deal of discussion about that other communities don't give away parking, and that the advisory committee is recommending this. So I think it is important when we do have these commissions and these committees to, when they have fully vetted something and they have a real understanding. Most of those people on there have been on there for a number of years, and so they have a really comprehensive understanding of parking and how it works and how on-street parking helps pay for the decks and so forth and so on. It's a financial matrix of sorts to make sure that we're able to pay for our capital improvements. So I think that's the one thing about parking that sort of helps it, helps the medicine go down a little bit, is that the advisory committee itself fully vetted this, and that's their recommendation going forward.
Good. All right. Mr. Anderson? Sorry, sir.
I mean, having served on council for a while, and I think all of us know this, but the public may not. I mean, our parking is an enterprise fund, so we're trying to. I think a lot of citizens probably believe they come downtown. I paid my taxes. Why can't I park for free? Well, we're trying to just charge the users, and so in other words, it's a user-driven model. It's not taken out of the general fund, or at least we try not to take it out of the general fund. And so we're just trying to run it like a business to the point to where it pays, it just breaks even basically, or gives us a little money to reinvest in the decks. So I'm happy to debate it in May. I'm just telling that some folks may not be aware of that. I mean, a lot of folks are probably not aware of that. That's not a general fund item. It's an enterprise fund, which means it's a standalone business.
Spears?
And I just want to say that my comment wasn't a knock on staff. I want y'all to know that. I am a supporter of you all. But as we relate to, I think in a previous meeting, we talked about it being an extremely hard time for some people in our community. And so what kind of break could we give people? I think we also had a discussion about us giving ourselves raises, but the financial straits or issues that people were experiencing in our community. And I think this is a thing that could be delayed that could potentially show a good faith gesture towards our citizens. That's what I mean. So it's not that, and I'll address this directly to you, Margaret. We talk about following the advice or information of the experts and then doing something different, but we do that quite often up here.
So we're going to open up the public hearing, and anybody wishes to come forward and speak on the budget, come forward. Ms. Bellamy?
Good evening, Mayor Saffo, Madam Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of City Council. For the record, I am Rhonda Bellamy, President and CEO of the Arts Council of Wilmington and New Hanover County, and we are happy to be celebrating our 10th year this year. As many of you know, because you've been on council for some time, we went 10 years without an Arts Council, reestablishing one in 2012, and I've been happy to be at the helm since that time. Our mission is to support artists and arts organizations through innovative public-private partnerships which develop jobs, stimulate commerce, and showcase the region as an arts destination. And I'd first of all like to say thank you for our early and ongoing partnership with the City of Wilmington through our pedestrian art public sculpture program, where we install 10 to 12 large-scale sculptures in our central business district to serve as a visible reminder of the fact that we are an arts destination. You had confidence in me in allowing the Arts Council to spearhead the Wilmington Rail Trail Initiative. You had confidence in me for the administration of $200,000 in ARPA funding for the arts. And most importantly, helping the Arts Council to quantify the economic impact of the arts here in New Hanover County through the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study, which we've just begun. It happens every 5 years. Of course, due to COVID, it was pushed back. We started May 1st for this particular one. So with this strong track record, we were dismayed to find that we were only going to receive $25,000 in agency funding to do the work that we do for the city. When I heard that we are spending, $1.25 on outside agencies for economic development, which is 0.004% of a $251 million budget, I was dismayed all over again. And so we have been at the same level for 7 years. The first 3 years, Wilmington City Council gave us $40,000 to reactivate an Arts Council. Then we dropped down to $25,000. We've been there for 7 years, and this is a 3-year cycle that we're on. So if they approve the $25,000 this year, we can expect that through, 2024. I would just ask Council to reconsider that. I thank you for your time.
It's really tough going after the professional DJ, but I'll give it a chance. News Director. Mayor Saffo, Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, council members, thank you, first of all, for this grant program that you all run through the city. Not all municipalities even have something like this, and so it's really special that the city provides this and partners with the nonprofits. I know you understand what a great return on investment all the nonprofits are. I work for Wilmington Area Rebuilding Ministry, WARM. We do urgent home repairs, wheelchair ramp construction, anything that will help keep people in their homes, like the folks at Chalmers Drive. That's that's the last 13 years of my life that was described in the ordinance review. And so I know you understand how important this is and how critical it is to keep people in their homes, especially with the fear, with all the storms that come along. I wish that WARM had gotten a hold of the Chalmers Drive property before Hurricane Florence did. I think we could have prevented them from getting to this situation. But I do have good news. I'm meeting with Mr. Brenner tomorrow, so hopefully we can find some ways to work even more closely with the code enforcement organization, because you know that in our affordable housing crisis, the most efficient strategy is put a little money into stuff that's already working. The folks are obviously been there a long time and put their own money into this property, and having WARM or another organization, the city's program, come along and put a little bit of money just so they can stay in their home is great. Our budget last year was about $3 million, and we helped 185 families stay in their home. And so that's what I mean by efficient. We're very efficient and lean. Most of that money came from state and federal sources, so we're bringing money from around the country, around the state, to Wilmington, to the Cape Fear region. And one of the things they look for on our applications is who's supporting you locally. Does your government believe in you? Do the local foundations believe in you? And so thank you for your longtime support, knowing that you believe in us and trust in us and understand how important the mission is. Your partnership is really valuable. Our award in the recommendations was lower than previous years, and we would like you to reconsider that, and hopefully we can do more together and keep people off your list of condemnations. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council, staff, Clark Hipp, live at 504 Dock Street. I'm a downtown architect. I feel like Councilwoman Haynes set this up for me. I'm here tonight as the chairman of the city's Municipal Service District Committee, Advisory Committee. With me tonight is Tom Davis. He's our vice chair. My comments will be very brief, but I feel like they're important enough that they be presented publicly tonight in front of you, and also give you an opportunity to ask questions about how we came up with our recommendation, which I believe was presented to you. So again, I'm here simply to reinforce our recommendation related to the request the staff's request to utilize MSD funds to pay for additional on-duty police officers within the Central Business District, and to raise the current assessment to cover these costs. Your advisory committee, your Municipal District Advisory Committee voted unanimously against the use of MSD funds for any on-duty police officers and any increase in the assessment. While I won't begin to speak for every member of your committee, I can tell you about my reasoning, the basis of which is that MSD funds were not intended to pay for typical services that the city should provide. Police security is probably the most basic service that a city can provide to its citizens. Our ad valorem taxes cover that cost. Everyone in the city pays for those services. No matter where it happens, those services should be provided. As I said, MSD funds are not typically intended to be used to pay for city salaries. I made a call to several municipal service districts in the state, and none of them have done that before, have paid city police, on-duty police salaries. They have paid for some cleaning services, which is different because cleaning services are very well defined. Police services are not very well defined. Police services have to go where the emergency is. The command structure of the police service makes it very difficult to ensure that the funds spent for those salaries are provided, the services are provided within the MSD. That's the requirement of the general statute, that any funds raised within the MSD be expended for services within the MSD. I'll point out that there has been a lot more activity downtown, but a lot of that activity has to do with city and county-owned property. The Live Oak Pavilion is a great benefit to the entire city, but that's bringing 3,000 to 4,000 people every weekend night to downtown. That's a city-owned property. It pays no ad valorem taxes and it pays no MSD assessment. The Wilson Center, another wonderful event center downtown, that's a county property. The community college owns a significant portion of the CBD, which is defines the MSD. It's public property. It brings a lot of people to the downtown, but it pays no additional assessment to the MSD. And then finally, again, my belief is that if we begin to use these funds, which are for additional services, beyond what the city would typically provide, if we do it in this instance, we set up the situation to do it again and again and again for additional cleaning, for additional parking, for other things that really the city should pay for in their overall, based on their overall ad valorem taxes. So with that, I'll offer up an opportunity to answer any questions that y'all might have about the committee's decision to recommend denial of the payment of on-duty police officer salaries with MSD funds and recommend denial of the 1 cent increase in the assessment. We encourage you to come to any meetings to talk to other members of the committee if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Travis Gilbert, Historic Wilmington Foundation. I just want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission, Ron, Christine, Jessica for including in the budget a resurveying of 6 of 8 National Register historic districts here in the city of Wilmington. It's important to understand that we live in a wonderful community that has some great data. Cape Fear Collective, WARM comes to mind. The data that our organization uses is these National Register listings or surveys. And it requires an architectural historian coming to Wilmington to chronicle the change over time in each of these properties within our 8 historic districts. I might shock you by saying that Historic Wilmington Foundation is primarily concerned with the Wilmington National Register Historic District. 6 of 8 historic districts being resurveyed in this budget might be a little too much, trying to save you a buck or two. When we consider Sunset Park, Carolina Heights, Carolina Place, these other National Register historic districts have not witnessed the loss of integrity or the developmental pressures that the Wilmington National Register Historic District has witnessed. There's also quite a labor shortage with architectural historians in the state of North Carolina. We used to have 2 really great historians here locally, Ed Terberg and Janet Siepker. They're no longer in the business. So we're going to be having to outsource this from elsewhere in the state or probably out of state. So I just want to reiterate that we appreciate including this in the budget. Our primary concern is the Wilmington National Register Historic District, and by including this in the budget, you're going to update the data that we have access to ensure that historic homes remain affordable and resilient. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, have you received any additional comments? Okay. Are there any additional questions from council? Okay. I will close the public hearing, and I will note that no action will be taken at this time as This was only a public hearing for the community. Thank you. Our next item of business, item PH5, which is a resolution authorizing the award of a professional services contract to Wilmington Downtown Incorporated in the amount of $562,692 for the services provided in the Municipal Services District, and authorizing the city manager to enter into that agreement on behalf of the city. This time I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chance Dunbar will overview this item for us.
Thank you, Mr. Caudle, Mr. Mayor, Madam Pro Tem, and members of council. For your consideration tonight is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Wilmington Downtown, Inc., or WDI, to provide services in the Municipal Services District. The MSD was first established by council back in 2016 with an ultimate goal to provide additional services above and beyond those provided to the rest of the city, based upon the specific public needs of the district. The current downtown MSD boundaries mirror those of the Central Business District zoning boundary. It's also important to note that WDI has been the MSD partner with the city since it was awarded the inaugural MSD contract back in 2017. City staff used an RFP process for the contract in March of this year, with one proposal received by WDI. WDI's focus on the MSD's 4 current focus areas, which are increased safety and security, a cleaner environment, physical appearance, marketing, and branding. Year 1 budget of this contract is proposed at $562,692. Each subsequent year, including this year's, shall be recommended by the MSD Advisory Committee and further adopted by City Council in their budget adoption process. On the screen here also is a breakdown percentage-wise of where these focus areas fall in terms of their total budget. 35% allocated to increased safety and security, 35% to the cleaner environment, 8% physical appearance, 7% marketing, and 15% allocated to WDI's overhead. The council-appointed MSD Advisory Committee recommends award to WDI for this MSD services contract. Staff recommendation for the term of this contract is 5 years, commencing July 1st, 2022, and running through June of 2027, which is in accordance to the NC General Statute of a 5-year limitation for private agency contracts for MSD services. It should also be noted that the NC General Statute does require a public hearing to be held for MSD contracts awarded to private agencies. And in closing, just want to give council a visual snapshot of really the big impact of what this MSD services does on a daily basis. Some before and after shots of their cleaning efforts here with trash and debris, before and after of a large graffitied water source cover, and here a cleaning effort before and after of the power washing and cleaning of a city sidewalk here. With that, and prior to council opening this up for a public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions or field any comments from council.
Any comments, questions for Chance? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. No, Mr. Spears?
Chance, I do want to mention, while you're here, I was tagged in a post the other day on social media, about an extra amount of dog poop in the downtown area. So when we look at the data you just provided, there seems to be, you know, some residents having some issues with just the amount of animal pollution that's downtown, and could we focus on that a little more or whatever?
Yes, sir.
I
Noted.
would be remiss not to mention it since you brought it up.
Got it. Noted.
Thank
We'll
you.
see what we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll open up the public hearing and ask if anybody in the public wishes to speak on item PH5. They'll come forward and state their name for the record. Seeing none, have we had any additional comments, Madam Clerk? Okay. I will close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our reports. Item RP1 is Council's Appointments Committee for Boards and Commissions. At this time, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Charlie Rivenbark, who is the chairman of the council's appointment.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we met on the, well, I can't remember when it was. It was immediately following the agenda briefing 2 weeks ago. And the Appointments Committee made up of myself, Councilmember Luke Waddell, Councilmember Neil Anderson, and we have the following 2 recommendations to council that I'd like to proffer. First, for the Wilmington, New Hanover County Commission for Women, we would like to reappoint Katie Griswold with a term to expire May the 19th, 2025. And for the Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority, Charlie Rivenbark and the other fellow, Bill Sappho, with terms to expire 5/13/2025. And with that, they've been offer those up for council's consideration.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. This concludes the regular agenda. Are there any items brought forward by our city attorney?
No items, Mr. Mayor.
Our city manager?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk? Mr. Waddell? Mr. Barnett?
This month, of course, is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we want to continue to have people to check into their favorite friends. And then I can't let this time go by without mentioning what happened in Buffalo, and all of the ramifications. And we've got a lot of work to do, knowing our neighbors, working with our neighbors, and bringing up tough subjects at the dinner table, and in places where we can really start doing a grassroots, helping folks to change their minds and become more aware and more sensitive to what's really happening in our country. And I hope that those who are listening to me did take the opportunity to vote today. And that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. It's with a great deal of sadness to have to say that we lost a really great community member in the last few days, and that was Jerry Wine, who lived on 2nd Street. And Jerry and I served together for a long time as Thalian Hall trustees, and the beautiful chandelier in the theater was given to Thalian Hall by Jerry Wine in memory of his late wife, Alice. So it's a real loss for the community. He's volunteered for a number of things over the years and was much beloved by everyone, so he will be sadly missed.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. To follow up on something that Councilman Spears talked about, it's something that I have mentioned to some of our senior staff. Somewhere in the CBD, we've done everything we can to entice people to move into the CBD, and they're doing it. And these are typical people. They may not be living in a house with a yard, but they live down here and they have pets. And we need sorely a dog park somewhere in the CBD for these folks to, when they're walking their dogs, to take them. Second thing, I left to come here today a little before 5, and this happens all the time, and if you drive around Wilmington, you'll know what I'm talking about. People blocking intersections on green lights, and then they can't move through the intersection, and the cross traffic is gridlocked. And that comes with success. People are moving here. We have a great deal of traffic. The DOT has had some issues with some of the improvements that will be coming, but in the meantime, I would certainly like to see our city traffic people in conjunction with DOT look into putting some signage above these intersections that say, do not block the intersection. Believe it or not, we have a few of them up. And whether or not they work, at least people will see that and not block, because that just that just further exacerbates the traffic problem. And the third thing, about 3 weeks ago, and I didn't see anything about it, a guy that was a good friend of mine, his name was Hook Nixon, and he was kind of like Wilmington's Jackie Robinson. He broke the color barrier in baseball in New Hanover High School and was just an all-around good person. He passed away, and I didn't see anything said. I hope somebody out there will come forward with something to honor Hook. He went through a lot of stress and hard times doing what he did, but he did it with style. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson? Mr. Spears?
Yes, sir. I would like to follow up what Councilman Barnett said about Buffalo and praying for Buffalo, but more importantly, to pray for people who have that sort of mentality, feeling like the extermination of other people helps to prevent the replacement, feeling like you're being replaced out of society, and so that killing others would further cement where you are in society. And that's just hateful thinking. There's no other way around it. That's just hateful thinking. And I think I know that's why I advocate so hard being in this position, focusing on the tough conversations, like Councilman Barnett said. We have to have these tough conversations at the dinner table, wherever you are. You have to have these conversations. There's no way around what's taking place in our nation. And, you know, I think in the year 2022, we think it's just the older people. This young man was 18 years old, and he had this sort of hate in his heart. It's just unfortunate. So I agree with my fellow councilman that it needs to be talked about. Can't keep running from it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I just want to say today, May 17th, is my parents' 63rd wedding anniversary. I just want to wish them a happy anniversary. Way to go, guys. Thank you. God bless you. With that, thank you for taking an interest in your government. We stand adjourned.